The following is intended only for mature audiences.
Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's J-Man. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm J-Man.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
Timmy.
I frequently will post comments on stories on theprp.com. That's the Pimp Rock Palace. It's all hard rock and heavy metal news.
Okay.
I have been going to that site for 20-some years.
Really?
It's been around that fucking long.
For almost as long as the internet.
Yeah, the 22, 23 years.
Hmm.
So anytime I see something juicy, I will comment, obviously. There was a story about Stephen Carpenter, who is the guitarist for the Deftones, which is a band you probably don't really listen to, but they're
not a lot of,
huge. No. He goes into depth about his reasons for embracing flat earth culture and other related conspiracy theories about space being fake and the moon landing being staged.
He went flat earth?
He's been going flat earth, but he explained why he's flat earth. He's like, when I first got into it, I was like, no, this is crazy. But then I started watching videos and it started making sense and listening to people that really take the time to explain how they came to this conclusion and stuff. And he just says all this shit that makes him sound fucking mental. Like he's done so many drugs that he's lost his mind. And just my comment was, it's 2021 and motherfuckers are still going full retard. Which you know is a reference to Tropic Thunder.
Yep. I love that movie.
Yes. Well, some gentleman on there felt the need to fucking scold me for my use of that word. Retard.
Oh, good God. Really?
Yeah, and this episode is going to consist of his comment and my response and then what happened after. So, he states, off topic, but using that word is no different than the idiot from the band Flaw saying the N-word to only a few white people at one of his shows. There's another story, singer of the band Flaw dropped an N-bomb, but he said it with an A. He got fucking massacred for that idiocy. Anyways, he continues, would you say that to someone who had an actual mental disability? Or is it not derogatory because there's presumably no one who has a disability on this thread? I stopped using that word a long time ago. But since my son was born with Down syndrome a few years ago, that shit sets me off, man. I think we agree on most things, and I know you're joking. I'm just advising you on the hate that is behind that word.
You just need to remember that you realize that this is a joke, so you can hop off your high horse. Jesus fucking Christ, these people.
Well, here comes my response.
Oh boy.
It's a fucking doozy.
Can't wait.
I immediately was like, no, you did not just try. I'm trying to educate you on the history of the hate behind that word. I don't need you to educate me. I know what words hurt people's feelings for various reasons. I don't have to care. They're your feelings. I don't have to be considerate of them at all. I can say whatever I want. My comeback could have been like, don't be such a faggot. Which would not have made any sense because he wasn't doing anything latently homoerotic. And frankly, I don't really use that word anymore.
Nor is he a bundle of sticks.
Or a British slang term for a cigarette.
That's right, it is.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, I could have been like, don't be a cunt. I could have said a number of things. But instead, I took the high ground by typing a lot of shit. So I'm just going to read it to you. Don't read ahead.
I can't read from this angle.
Okay, I said, well, bless you for the unsolicited advice and thank the stars I have you to educate me. Now here's where your chiding me takes a left turn at the corner of Had No Idea Street and Presumption Boulevard. My deceased sister was severely mentally disabled, and I spent most of the 80s and almost the entirety of the 90s being reminded I had a, quote, retard sister, and that I was probably retarded too. I used to go off without thought anytime someone said that word to me about her, and took probably 5 dozen trips to the principal's office for that shit. The fights, I meant.
Yeah.
At one point, I realized the fruitlessness of being offended by that because I was giving them exactly what they wanted, a violent reaction. So once I got over that mindset, I began to laugh along with it. Then everybody else stopped because I had taken their power away by no longer getting upset.
That's how you do it, yeah.
And since you recognize the context in which I used it, I don't see why you felt the need to speak up. I wasn't slandering anyone of legitimate mental disability, so my advice to you is to focus on taking offense if someone makes fun of your son or people like him and not every time you hear that word. It's only a word. It cannot cause you physical harm, and although it may upset you, it only has the power to do damage that you give it by embracing those feelings. Furthermore, your son is not retarded. He has a chromosomal disorder. I say that with the tone of encouragement. He will grow up in a time where there is infrastructure to give him an education and a life virtually free of stigma. I suffered through a time when nobody gave two shits to think about policing language for the benefit of others, so consider me numb to your self-imposed umbrage. You can continue to scold people for using that word in a non-related sense, but in long view, it is a fool's errand. Take the power back from the word that triggers you and learn to let it roll off your back. Trust me, from experience, it will be the easiest way to make peace with the concept and empower you going forward. I use the word to describe things and situations, not people who have mental disabilities. Never would I use it to talk about them either to their faces or behind their backs, which is infinitely more important of an indicator of character. I also partake in the local Special Olympics polar plunge each year, seeking $0 of donations from others and fronting the $75 participation fee out of pocket. And I have 5 kids to feed, so I ain't rich. Oh, and by the way, there's also the period from May 2018 to September 2020 where I was a social worker who worked exclusively with the disabled and other vulnerable adults. So I guess you could say I feel entitled to use that word given its undeniable stitching into the fabric of my life. Finally, your analogy, well good intentioned, is farcical to me. Using the N-word in general towards anyone is absolutely fucking ignorant, and the legacy of its origins and intention is rooted solely in hate and to demean people. Whereas the R-word was an actual medical term that was widely used to describe a myriad of birth defects. People then took that word and wielded it to offend and demean others. Not an apples-to-apples comparison. Context is key, and intention is everything. Samuel L. Jackson constantly uses the word motherfucker. Should we tell him to stop out of concern for kids who are sensitive that their mothers like to get fucked?
No.
Cheeky at the end. And then I just put, too long didn't read version. That word and I have a history, so shrug.
Only you could put together such a great response.
Yeah. And he comes back with, and this is the beautiful, I don't agree, but okay, I actually rarely say anything online to anybody who uses it. Just had the urge to say something to you. My apologies.
What the fuck?
I was just like, wow, he said my apologies. I offended him.
Away.
Then I chewed him a new asshole by insulting his intelligence and his sensitivity, and he apologized to me.
But he said, I don't agree. There's nothing... Listening to your argument, maybe he's biased because I've known you for so long, but if I heard that argument anywhere made by anybody, I'd be like, this guy's got a point.
Well, it's just like Jesus. Religion.
Mm-hmm.
Or mysticism or spiritualism. It only has the power that you give it by putting faith into its belief system or believing that it's real or true. So if I say, and I have for years, I don't believe in God, that means that anybody that's like, you're going to go to hell. No, I'm not, because I don't believe in that shit. What you're
Exactly.
threatening me with or warning me of doesn't affect me whatsoever. I don't give two shits. It's a simple fact.
Yeah.
I get what he's saying about his son, but there comes a point where you need to separate your personal feelings from the subjective nature of words.
Well, like I said, the way your argument was laid out, if people were referring to your son using the R word, okay, fine. Yeah, get upset. But if somebody's just using it in a blanket statement for something, not a specific person, well, there's no need to get upset about it.
And my point about the medical diagnosis thing, when my sister was born in 1971, that's a long fucking time ago.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 50 fucking years ago.
Holy shit.
When you say 1971 to you or I, because we were born in the very early 80s, it doesn't seem like that long ago, but it's 50 fucking years.
Well, yeah, I'm turning 41 this year, and it's just like, to think about it, I couldn't even imagine your sister being 50 years old, Right. So when she was born, she was diagnosed as being severely mentally retarded. That was the vernacular that medical professionals deemed okay to use. Back then, it didn't offend people as easily because they're like, oh, okay, you're retarded. And I'm sure there were
literally millions of cases of people being teased for being slow or special or slightly developmentally disabled. God knows that using the word autistic didn't really come into commonality until the 2000s, as far as I know.
Yeah, it seemed like it popped up out of nowhere.
Using that word, it doesn't fucking bug me, but people did use it to mock others with developmental delays or disabilities. You know, I got my neighbor across the street, the one that I helped him figure out that he's apparently a little special. You're forgetting the story. I can see it on the look on your face.
No, there's a couple of stories I remember about neighbors.
He came over and he said that somebody called the cops on him at the Red Box because he couldn't figure out how to return the movie, and they thought he was drunk. I'm like, well, you know, when you talk, I can see why people would think that. How? Like, because you sound drunk. How? He got defensive. I'm like,
now you sound like an Indian.
You sound like you're slurring all the time. You fumble for words. You stutter. That is indicative typically of somebody who is under the influence of something. So I know you. I know that's how you talk. These were strangers out in public that didn't know you, that probably were annoyed that you were taking forever to put a fucking DVD back into a machine and couldn't figure the shit out right. And you were wasting their time. So they figured that they were going to call you in because you were drunk in public. So he took my advice, went home to his brother, came back later, was like, yeah, so I was talking to my brother about what you said, and I guess, you know, like, there's a test they can do when a baby's born, but they have to do it to, like, check to see if the mom was drinking, and I'm just like, holy shit, did I just help him figure out, or did I just finally make it so somebody told him he has fetal alcohol syndrome? Because that makes so much fucking sense.
Wow. That's like a ray of blissful... I don't even know what the word would be.
Well, it was realization.
Blissful realization. It's like, oh my God, I have that.
Well, and his brother said he has a caseworker with the county. So obviously he's on their radar as being somebody that's disabled to some degree. He should not have been shocked when I said that, but apparently it opened a window into his mind for him to look back at his entire life and go, oh.
It was probably never told to him directly. It's like, you have signs of fetal alcohol syndrome. They probably just said, well, you know, you're a little bit different, you know.
No, he's different, all right.
So
he's not like the charming kind of special. He's like the annoying kind of special where you go out to get the mail and he walks up to say hi and you want to just be cordial and, you know, say, oh, how's your day going?
I got you.
And
there.
next thing you know, 12 minutes are gone by and he's been spending 8 minutes of that talking about how they need to go to the vet so their dog's anal glands can be expressed. That's an actual fucking conversation that happened. He talked for 8 minutes about his dog's butthole glands. And I'm like, I just wanted to get the fucking mail.
Yeah, I've had conversations with people.
And I don't go get the mail if he's outside anymore. I fucking wait. Sometimes till dark.
You actually look.
I fucking avoid him like the plague. Because another time, I was jogging and he stopped me to say something and he fucking talked my ear off for 10 minutes. And it's like, I had this energy to go jogging. And I made it about 100 feet, and then he stopped me, and it just sucked the life out of me with his fucking nonsense.
You know, and it's an interesting side note. Anytime I've ever used the R word, if I've ever called someone a retard, it was usually somebody that wasn't retarded.
Exactly. Just like when you call a man a cunt. He doesn't have one, but you can call him one. I don't say that word to people with disabilities. Now, I'm sure a great many people would say, there's no different. You still shouldn't use that word. Well, what if... like former famous comedian Carlos Mencia. If you remember him, he was a Mexican gentleman.
I remember him, yeah.
And the dee bit, you know? He's like, I went to go do that bit in front of a bunch of special people. And they were waiting for that bit. And I could tell they were like, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? And he's like, I didn't want to do it. And then they kept pressuring me to do it, so I did it. And they fucking lost their shit. They were so happy. Whereas, similarly, there's an interview with Bobcat Goldthwait, I believe when he's talking to Jay Leno. And he says he was on an airplane. And he was on the plane with an entire U.S. Special Olympics team. Mm-hmm. Right? And something was going on when they landed. And the pilot made mention of the fact that there might be a fire truck that would meet them on the tarmac. And he said the word fire truck. And from the back, you just hear somebody go, fire truck. And then he turns to the crowd at the Tonight Show and goes, if you don't find that funny, then you are failing to recognize that they are human. Well, I was like, that is very fucking profound. If you don't acknowledge some of the things they do are silly, almost childlike, like you have to overprotect them, you don't. They have feelings. They deserve respect and integrity, right? But sometimes they do shit that's goofy. If you want to see a brilliant display of somebody with Down syndrome, watch the movie The Peanut Butter Falcon. It's about some guy with Down syndrome that lives in an old folks home because he's got no family. And he breaks out and he meets Shia LaBeouf's character who's on the run. And the kid with Down syndrome wants to be a wrestler.
I think I've heard of this movie.
It's on Amazon Prime. Fucking watch it. It's great. So yes, I will unrepentantly use the word retard, but I won't use it on people that are developmentally disabled because I would never want to fucking hurt them like that because I have been around too many of them and experienced their lives and their stories.
Yeah, they're just people like everybody else.
Now, I didn't have to put this guy on blast. He had no fucking idea. But I swear I had made mention on this website many a time about having a sister that was developmentally disabled or mentally retarded. So it should come as no shock that I'm comfortable with that word the same way that black people are comfortable dropping the N-word on each other. Or gay people calling each other any manner, bitch, or queen, or even faggot. I don't know if they really do that anymore. But
I don't know.
You get to a point of comfort in language, and like I said, context is key. What's the intention? I was just mocking somebody who I thought was, quote, talking retarded, which was nonsensical and stupid. That's it. Nothing of my joke, simple one-line, little quippy statement there, had anything to do with mocking people with disabilities. So that's why his need to educate me was just like, are you fucking serious? Another one of you motherfuckers? It's just like that goddamn trans male to female that once upon a time ago on Twitter got her panties in a bunch because I made some crack about former WWE wrestler Paige getting fake tits and saying, who gets fake tits after they're done making amateur porn? Which, if you know the background, is funny. But that person felt the need to educate me and how hurtful it was to talk about women as sex objects. And it's like, oh my God, shut the fuck up. I mean, we did an episode about it.
Yeah.
It warranted an entire one because there were so many fucking replies. But that's one thing with the internet. Realize whether or not you actually need to speak up. Like, stay in your fucking lane. You got your son. Defend him. Don't fucking go around waving this virtue flag that you think you're going to solve the word's use of that problem by ridding it of it just because you complain on the internet. You're never going to get rid of the word retard, just like you'll never get rid of words like dyke or faggot or kike or nigger or mick or spick or any of these words that I'm taking great liberties at saying because I'm using them referentially. These words still exist. People don't use them as often. But I have a new coworker who's of Mexican descent, and he says his mother pretty much almost exclusively refers to him as puto. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm J-Man.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
And that's the end.